Dr. Mary Sanders. Wow, what a great conversation with Dr. Mary. She is a medical intuitive. I wonder what you think when you hear that. Start the conversation with meditation. I see it as a common thread to high achievers. I wonder if you meditate. At very early age of 3 years old, they found out that she was partially deaf. So it forced her to exercise other senses or make the other ones stronger. So she's now an intuitive. I have endless amounts of questions about that, what it's like to receive, what it's like to turn off. And she's more than willing to participate and talk about it. And so what does she do with this gift? This gift that she's worked on, that she was born with, that she made stronger, is that she helps others. It's one thing to help yourself, but again, I believe the trait of a remarkable person is helping others. And it's a wonderful conversation with Dr. Mary. I sincerely thank her for it, and I thank you for watching and listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How'd I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Vastly interesting. Tell me how meditation has changed your life.
Oh, wow. In one sentence, or do I have time to elaborate?
You have as much time as you like.
Right. So, I would like to say that meditation found me at the right time in my life. And that was when I initially relocated from Colorado Springs and we moved to Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam.
Yeah.
And so for the first time, I really had time, within my daily schedule in order to meditate. And it was at that time, it was a period in my life in which internal exploration was my main theme. I wanted to figure out who I was, what I stood for, what was my purpose, and what am I doing on this planet? Because I had already was transitioning out of my professional career as a chiropractor, and I was asking the big existential question: what's next? What's next? What am I being called to do? And so when I started meditating, I had happened to be down in Bali, Indonesia, finishing my yoga teacher's training certification. And so I've been a yoga practitioner for over 30 years. And so what was happening is that I was spending more time in the meditation portion versus the asana, the physical aspects of the movement practice within yoga. And so I continued when I left Bali and moved back to Ho Chi Minh City. I continued my daily practice, and some really magical things were starting to happen, meaning that I was finding more spaciousness in my existence, if you will. I started to notice the complexity of my thoughts, the complexity or the ruminating thoughts that might pull me away from my centeredness. So many magical things that were happening, Joey. It forced me literally to say, wow, I've been working with the human body for 30 years and I know it incredibly well from the neck on down, but what's happening in the head space, the space between the ears? And that's what drove me to further my education in positive psychology. Because at the time, Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar was the leading researcher in the neuroscience behind meditation. And so I don't know if that really answered the pivotal point in my life, but boy, sure was a magical exploratory time.
In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection, powered by Forza Dash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading Forza-MSP Influence Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the Forza platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. And even now, on the weekends, you spend 90 minutes during the week, at least a half hour, like every day, close to every day doing it?
Easy. Yeah. Wow, I don't know my life without it, to be honest with you. I get cranky if I don't meditate.
Wow.
I get really irritable and things kind of, they don't get like, I don't catastrophize. I don't make things bigger than what they need to be, but I'm definitely more grounded, more centered, more clear, more coherent when I do meditate on a regular basis. And that is true for me. Some of my weekend meditations they can lean into, a good hour and a half. It's not uncommon. It's actually like my favorite part of the day.
And you wear a mask when you do it. Why?
I do. Because there's something to be said about light deprivation. And there for a while, my primary focus using light deprivation glasses was to allow my eyes to be open so that my ocular nerves were still firing, and so that the neurological input into the place of what is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That's a fancy
Wow.
term for where the two nerves cross. At that magical point where the two optical nerves cross, that's kind of an energy center. It's physiologically very it's connected into a ganglia that is within the neck, can fire synapses right up into the pineal gland. And so I was playing with all of this. That's what originally led me down the path of using a light deprivation goggles while I meditate. And I still use it to this day.
Now, Dr. Mary, you didn't get diagnosed until you were 3 years old with hearing loss.
That is true.
How did that affect you?
Wow. So I was the youngest of three girls, and needless to say, my parents were busy managing all three of us. We were all under the age of 6. And so I learned, because I went undiagnosed, I learned how to perceive and receive information above and beyond the traditional 5 senses. So what does that mean to you? It just means that, she can't hear, but we all know, and I believe this to be true, we have access to information above and beyond our traditional senses. And if you have an impairment in one of those areas, it forces you to develop that way of receiving information. And so what was happening for me at the time, Joey, I was becoming really in tune to other people's emotions, and I was becoming really in tune to the energetics. Now, obviously I'm less than 3 years old. How am I to know this? But I was picking up the vibes of my family. Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they confused? Are they joyous? And so I would modulate my responses based upon the information that I perceived.
Wow.
And so I think that set the stage for me kind of leaning into the idea that, wow, there's a lot of information that we have access to if we just open ourselves up to it.
And I heard you say a story that one of the neighborhood kids was in the ambulance and you said it was a collapsed lung and nobody told you this, but you told your mother. So this is an example of some of these vibes that you would pick up.
Yeah, I just wanted to be a normal kid. I grew up in the Midwest. I wanted to go swimming and ride my bike and play outdoors all summer long. Who doesn't want to do that? I wanted to be a normal kid. So I tried to kind of desensitize some of the information that I was receiving,
Hmm.
but I would still get spontaneous hits. And the story that you're making reference to, yeah, I was in high school. I was riding my bike home, probably from gymnastics or swim practice, and I saw this ambulance at my neighborhood pool, and I saw that one of my classmates was being loaded onto the ambulance, the back of the ambulance. And I knew exactly what happened. And so I ran into my house, when I got home, and I tried to tell my mom, what I witnessed. And my mother, not knowing, she's a devout Christian or devout Catholic, and she didn't have really space in her world for her daughter to come home with like this
Hmm.
information about how she can perceive how somebody else is sick and what's going on with them. And so I ran into the house and I'm like, Mom, Tom has a collapsed lung, and I saw him get onto the ambulance and blah, blah, blah. And she looks at me and she just was like, there's no way that you can know this information. And I'm like,
Hmm.
but I do. I know this to be true. And, the phone tree happens in a small to rural community. And by that afternoon, it was validated that that's what had happened to my classmate, you know.
Do you still receive this intuition, these waves?
Oh, absolutely. Now it's not spontaneous. I open myself up intentfully to receive this information.
Wow.
And I do it, Joey, because I want to be of service to other people. My intention is to be of service to others in their highest good at all times. At all times. And so today, and when I hold space as a medical intuitive, my job is to get out of the way and just receive the information so that I can sense and say and help facilitate, the next step of the person's healing journey. I don't intellectually or cognitively lead these sessions. It just flows through me.
Wow. Can you turn it on and off?
I kind of have to turn it off. I have to desensitize myself. Like if I were to go into a restaurant or, I don't, very rarely am I in crowded environments anymore because it's just too much stimulation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Concerts, subway.
No.
Yeah, you can't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Airports.
Mm-mm. Yeah. Oh, airports are the worst. Yeah.
Because explain it to me. So, are there waves just coming in of these different emotions, and you're kind of defending them, or are they more kind of subtle? Like help me understand what it's like.
That's a legitimate question. Like in airports, I find I get really fatigued super fast,
Oh
and I get
wow.
really irritated. Like I feel people in my space.
Huh.
Like I don't have enough space to I don't have enough space to expand, and so people kind of lean in on me and it makes me irritable, and then I start picking up, information just visually walking, through the corridors at the airport, and people are you I can't help but to see things and to hear things and to feel things that I'm just like, ugh, too much.
And what if there's benevolence and happiness in some of those emotions? You feel that as well?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. Who wouldn't love to feel
Right.
joy and happiness and laughter and enthusiasm and excitement and all that good stuff?
So the reason why you're emotionally drained is because the majority of those thoughts are negative.
I guess if you want
Oh,
to call it that, it's just too much.
I see. It's overstimulation.
Yeah, and so I want to shut down. I want to
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
And the difference between an intuitive and an empath is what?
I think a lot of people consider themselves being highly empathic, and that
Hmm.
is it's part of the emotional intelligence. You want to be empathic. You want to be sensitive of what the other person is going through in order to have that relational bond with another person. And intuitive just means that you're accessing information, right? You're opening yourself up as a conduit to receive information about other people, places, things, items, events, and again, it's information that you could be looking for or it could be spontaneous.
Hmm. Are some people easier to read than others?
Yeah.
I shouldn't say
I think
read, receive. It's not really reading. I don't know what's the term there.
Well, that's a good question because I always ask, I'm always asking for permission. I'm not going to start reading, quote
Right.
unquote, another person without their permission. But I find those people that have, obviously, if they have some kind of a foundation, a commonality of how we view the world and how we view the energetic system, how we view, the biofield that surrounds us, that invisible electromagnetic field that surrounds all living things, if somebody has that foundation, then it's easier to facilitate a healing or a reading for those individuals. Not to say I still don't get information, from skeptics, but
Hmm.
I want there to be, Joey, I want there to be a good match with those people that I intend to be of service with.
Hmm.
If I do a consult with a person and I don't feel like it's a good match, then I refer them to other people,
Wow.
because there's a practitioner for everyone, and all people that are seeking assistance should be interviewing their practitioner to get a good match, to get the
Now,
good fit.
why wouldn't they be a good match?
Who knows? Who
You're not
knows?
able to
And
read them. You're not able to at your end, not theirs. At your end, why would you reject? I shouldn't say reject. Why would you not work with somebody?
uh, my preference is to work with women. Okay.
Ah,
My that's my preference, just
why?
because it feels easier.
I see.
I can, there's more life experience that I can relate to. Not
Hmm.
to say that I don't enjoy working with men. I still have a handful of male clients, but that's not who typically gravitates to me. So, for example, I've had healings with others that come to me with a list of all the various different ailments of their family members, and I don't have permission from the other family members to get intuitive information, and so
Hmm.
for me, that's not the right match. The right match for me is somebody who's looking for personal information to facilitate their healing journey. I there are psychics and the other mediums that would be a better match for these people who are looking for quick responses on their entire family, so to
Right.
speak.
Can you read me at all in this conversation virtually?
I'm not intending to at the moment.
Okay, so when we have a discussion like this, like you start by having it off.
I do.
I see.
I'm more my intention right now, energetically, Joey, in having this conversation with you, twofold. Number one, I want to feel deeply grounded. I
Hmm.
want to feel that two-way exchange with the earth so that I can feel supported, so I can feel nurtured and saturated and full of myself. Not in a negative, egotistical way, but
Hmm.
just to feel really deeply rooted and connected. The second thing is that I open up and I calibrate the energy center of my throat
Hmm.
so that I can lean into more authentic communication, so that I can communicate to serve others, right? Because I do believe that those people that are listening have been gravitated to this conversation for some reason. There
Hmm.
may be a nugget that they needed to hear today in order to facilitate their healing journey. And so, my intention when I open up this energy center is to speak from the heart and to speak authentically and in alignment with my belief systems.
Hmm. So, Dr. Mary, before you're traveling somewhere, you're going to go to the airport, you're going to get inundated. Are you practicing to turn it all off? So, if you could turn it off, you're still walking through and there's so many people around, but you just can't help that you're feeling them, even though you have it off?
Yeah, no, what I do, and this is a practice that I do. I literally will set the intention to shrink my biofield. So
Whoa.
I pull, it's like I make a really tight cocoon for myself, and I make the boundaries of it pretty thick so that, my energy is not big. Like if I were to stand up on a stage, I would want my energy, I would want to be seen if I'm presenting and
Sure.
educating others. So I would want to be an open and expanded, and I would want to be visible. When I go into an airport, I don't want to be visible. Okay. I want to be small. I want to be contained. I want my container to belong to me and to, for nobody
Wow.
else. So
Wow.
even in that state, I still receive some information, but it's not as though I'm in an expanded state when I'm setting the intention to receive intuitive information for another person.
Wow. And how about the person you're traveling with? Do you leave a little hole open for them?
No holds, no holds. I typically, my favorite person to travel with is my husband, and
Right.
over the last 23 years, we've done a lot of traveling. And he knows me well enough that he knows that when I'm traveling, that I
I see.
desensitize myself.
I see.
And he knows me well enough that at night before we go to bed, I will kiss him and tell him I love him and tell him that I'm going to separate from him, so that I can call back all my energy from the day, and that I can ground in and get a good night's sleep.
Hmm. Wow, what a wonderful way to make space. Now, when you're working with somebody, Dr. Mary, do they ever say, "Look, open your apparatus, open yourself up, read whatever you like, but when it gets to this area, I don't want to know anything about it." Do they ever kind of, you know, corner an area off where they don't want to explore and don't
Yeah, a
want you to
couple.
explore?
That's a legitimate question, and so there's two folds to this. I always honor. I'm not guiding the facilitation or the healing. The other person's spirit is, okay,
Ah.
and so I trust that I will be shown what the person needs to hear or to understand in
Hmm.
this present time. And so I do. There are times in which, when I lift the veil for a reading or a healing, that I sense, like the spirit is not like forthcoming. Like there's been, I've had, shy spirits, timid spirits, that
Hmm.
are not sure if they want to be witnessed. And so then it becomes a conversation, and I just hold space until they start to reveal themselves in a way that's comfortable for them.
Hmm.
So I honor that, number one. And then the second thing, Joey, that I honor is that when people are quote unquote done, like they're saturated with knowledge, information, or energy, they show that to me too as well.
Wow.
And so then I kind of, once I see that they're saturated, I ask them if they feel complete. And if they say yes, then I bring the reading and a healing to a close.
So people often forget certain things about themselves. So when you're working with them and something gets revealed like that, do you automatically let them know that this is what you're feeling? This is what you're sensing?
I do. I do. And the reason that I sense and say is because I've already set
Sense and
the
say.
intention that I am their spirit is guiding the healing. I'm just a facilitator. I report back to them what they need to hear in present
Wow.
time. So, oftentimes, Joey, the information is not for me, okay? So I just sense and say, I start spitting things out. It makes no cognitive sense to me,
Wow.
but I'm sharing it, and then it makes sense to the other person.
Have you ever held back when you got a sense and didn't say it?
I'm sure I have. I'm sure I have. When I first started practice, I don't think I would be human if I
Oh, because you
didn't.
were
But
undisciplined or you were trying not to tell them something?
I'm not sure. I think it's a skill that you have to lean into. How many times have you heard, "I knew it. I knew I wasn't
Mm,
supposed to do this,
mm,
but I
mm,
did it anyway,"
mm.
right? I didn't trust my intuition, but boy, I knew. I got the messages. I shouldn't have turned right when I turned left. Whatever it is. And so when somebody is cultivating a relationship with their intuition, they're going to test it.
Hmm.
They're going to test it. Like they're going to ignore it so many times, and then finally they're going to surrender to it. And so I think that's true in any kind of an intuitive work. There would, and again, this is part of the learning curve, to lean and to trust what your intuition is sharing with you.
Amazing. That must be a wonderful experience on both parts. Does the person you're working with often are surprised at what their senses are revealing and they're not, sharing verbally?
Yeah. I mean, it's Joey, it's a pretty vulnerable thing. I mean, I
Right.
can't I can't share with you, and I respect that. Boy, do I respect that.
Right.
Because in today's world, very few people really see us for who we really are. And to have an intuitive working with you, it feels like sometimes it's like too much, you know? It's like, oh my goodness, I'm not sure if I really want this to be revealed yet. And again, that's why I set the intention to, at the beginning of the session to be in alignment with their highest good at all times. So
Hmm.
I'm sensing and saying based upon what is shown to me, and I have to trust that that's what the person needs to hear or to know that day.
Senses and
Vulnerable. Vulnerable.
it's very vulnerable. Yes. So you feel you have an obligation. You're sensing and then you're saying. So you're just a conduit at this point.
Correct.
Wow. I recently accepted a challenge from a friend who asked me to do the following. So in one of the artificial intelligence LLMs, they said, ask it to ask you 10 questions to get to know yourself better, but ask it one at a time. So it'll give you a different question each, depending on your response. So I did this, Dr. Mary, and it came to the point at the end. Well, I'm a 57-year-old man. I don't mind you telling you. I mean, I wept. It was like, wow, that's absolutely incredible. I can't believe it discerned that from what I answered and what it asked. I can only imagine what it's like when you're talking with somebody like that and something gets revealed and it's from you. It's a human interaction. That must be a wonderful experience.
It's priceless. It's priceless. It's my absolute favorite thing to do in the whole wide world.
Right.
It is an honor to witness somebody else. It's a beautiful dance. It's a sign of trust.
It is a
It's
sign of trust.
it is intimacy.
It certainly is. So you stop being a chiropractor and you're completely in what's called medical. You're a medical intuitive now, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I still have, a few patients that I see in
Ah,
person on the chiropractic table, but yes, my practice is leaning more into doing remote energy work more than chiropractic.
remote energy work. So you're not local with somebody. You're virtual.
I'm virtual.
Wow. Is it easier to be face to face to
No,
receive? Doesn't
no.
matter.
No, let me share why. Two things. Actually three things. Number one, when I hold space, I want to be able to expand my field without the presence of another spirit in my office. Does that make
Wow.
sense? So I
Huh.
don't want to be sitting knee to knee with somebody. I want to be able to blow out my system and receive information.
Wow.
That's the first thing. The second thing, I openly admitted I'm hearing impaired. And so it's, when I'm knee to knee with somebody, even though I wear hearing aids, there's always a physical strain that I have to exert to be in conversation with another person.
Interesting.
I'm happy to do that. But when I am in a healing modality or a healing space, I don't want to effort. I want to spend, I do not want to effort. I want to allow in a state of grace as much as I can. And so when I'm on, just like I am right now, I am connected via Bluetooth to my computer and it gets wired into my hearing aids. And so I hear you loud and clear. I don't have to effort, I don't have to
Mm,
strain. So
mm.
those are my two primary reasons why I choose to work with people remotely. In fact, I have a patient, a client who works in the same office building that I do, and we still connect
Huh.
remotely.
Huh. Amazing. And so we've been talking for just a few minutes here. I know you've turned it off, but are you receiving anything from me just during this conversation?
Then let me ask you in a different way. Do
Yeah.
you want me to receive information?
I'm not against it. So I guess that's really ultimately that's my question. Am I projecting and I don't know?
Hmm. Are you projecting and you don't know?
Right.
Well, I know right now you are running more energy in the upper three energy centers, and you're less aware of the lower three energy centers. You innately expand through your space when you are holding space as a guest, hosting, or as a host for another guest on your podcast.
Hmm.
I think this is an innate strength of yours. So you've been clearing and making space in your throat, front and back, the entire time that you and I have been conversing. You also are very talented in receiving information via the seventh energy center on the top of the head, any abstract information that you may be receiving. And then you are organizing it in a way to verbally get the point out. So you're operating 5, 7, some 6. So your lower three energy centers, the pelvis, the first, the second, the third, are not as active at this moment, right now in present time for you.
Wow. And they're not active. Does it mean I'm hiding something and they're just not active?
You're leaning into your strengths based upon what you're currently doing as far as your activity.
Wow.
So I think the one thing that this is leading me to want to share with those listening is that the energy centers, oftentimes through the Vedic sciences, years and years that has been shown that these wheels of energy, they look and appear to be stagnant, and they are anything but stagnant.
Whoa.
Meaning that you can go and Google chakras and you're going to see a person sitting in possibly a meditative lotus position, right, with their knees crossed. And then you see the classic, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple, through the energy centers. And they look like individual wheels, and that represents symbolically the energy centers. But what the picture does not share with us is that we, as beautiful spirits living in our human home, have the ability to auto calibrate. We can change the openness, the activity, the expression of these energy centers based upon what we are currently doing, like
Wow.
in demand. Right now, you are running and hosting a podcast. So you're not thinking about safety. You're not thinking about security. You're not
Hmm.
thinking about reproduction. You're not thinking about those energy centers are a little more subdued, but you are thinking about expression. You are thinking about knowledge and how you assimilate it and how to convey this with the audience.
Hmm.
So you now, consciously, subconsciously, doesn't matter, your energetic system is shifting to support you in what you are currently doing.
Hmm.
Now, my energy centers are running in a specific way versus if I go play pickleball later on tonight, I'm going to run my energy differently. Or like this morning when I was in sunrise yoga, my energy centers calibrate automatically given the environment that we are in. Now, there are some times that we put ourselves in certain situations which, that we may not fear, but like, let's say somebody has a presentation tomorrow and they really want their slide deck to go well in their sales pitch and they want to nail it so that they get this promotion. So they can be super intentful to meditate on specific chakras or energy centers in order to enhance their performance tomorrow during that presentation.
Wow.
So we all have the ability to auto calibrate our energy centers based upon our environment. It's like a little recipe.
Hmm. Because I guess I want to pull the curtains back just a little bit, Dr. Mary. I mean, today is a very it's a very somber day. Today's the anniversary of my sister's passing. It's been 22 years. So, I spent a bunch of time this morning ruminating, meditating, thinking about it. And, so I generally don't even have podcasts these days, but I saw you were coming and I said, this is going to be good. It'll be good for everybody. So I did it. So I wonder if you sense any of that. I guess am I projecting that? So I go back to that question.
Hmm. Well, first and foremost, I'm sorry that you had to live through the experience of your sister passing. Um, I too have lost a sister, not
Mm,
lost, but my sister has transitioned. So I know what it's like to, on those anniversaries where you're thinking of this person and you're kind of energetically connecting with
mm,
them.
mm,
And you do so by opening up the space on the seventh energy center to ascend into some higher domains, into the spiritual domain. So again, when I was making the observation about your ability to receive abstract information, that's just one of the many different ways that we use the seventh energy center. And Joey, as I'm sitting here and I'm feeling the top of my crown chakra, I can feel heat.
hmm,
So I sense that you are really expanding through this energy center. Obviously, when you're processing emotions, you also connect through the heart space as well, the
hmm,
relational field. So, yeah, I think it would defy all natural laws for you not to shift your energy on a day like today, and it
hmm.
is such a big anniversary.
What if discipline wasn't about punishment, but about unlocking your best self? I spent 2.5 years writing Discipline for Greatness because discipline changed my life. And I know it can change yours too. This isn't theory. Inside, you'll find real, practical steps you can use immediately to focus better, build stronger habits, reduce stress, accomplish your goals, and bring more balance to your life. Whether you're trying to get healthier, improve your career, or simply feel more control, this book gives you the framework. Start today. Grab your copy of Discipline for Greatness at joeypinz.com/book. Thank you. When you talk to other medical intuitives, are there degrees? Are there levels of it? What's it like when a bunch of medical intuitives get together? Can they shut each other off? How does that work?
I think it's lovely. I think
Mm.
it's lovely when we all come together. It's almost like you can finish the other person's sentences,
Ha,
and,
ha.
it's one of these. Um, it's a lovely experience. But the thing I want to emphasize is that I, like you, hold space as a host for a podcast, and I host other intuitives, and so we may use different words, but basically at the end of the day, it's the same message.
Mm.
Okay. So I think the thing that I love best in holding space and connecting with other intuitives is to kind of feel through their lens, because I think as intuitives, we all want to lean into our strengths. And there are people, I may connect with people that are much more clairvoyant and can see past lives, they can see color, they can see aura, they can see. I love that, because then I can cross reference like what they may be seeing. I can cross reference it
Mm.
into like what I feel. So there's more than one way to receive intuitive information, and I'm really thankful that others are working on their intuitive gifts and combining it in a way that they view, that's their lens in which they view the world. Their lens is going to be different than my lens because I have different strengths. And so it's always an honor to share space with other highly intuitive people.
Hmm.
I also do believe that when I'm holding an entrainment with others, in one-on-one healings, that the other person gets downloads. Their intuition gets turned on,
Mm.
and so all of a sudden they may be getting visions or memories or scents or smells or tastes or words, or they may be receiving information that I don't receive, that is pertinent to them in their own healing journey. So I think it's a
Mm.
blessing to hold space for other highly intuitive people.
Can your skills get sharpened or become soft?
Ah, I suppose so.
So
I
when you get
suppose so.
together, do they get sharpened?
Oh, I see what your question is.
Yeah,
You're talking about collectively. I think that there's an enhancement.
there is.
Yeah, I understand your question now. I thought you meant as an individual, can they soften or
Well,
can
that's
they
a good
get
question
sharpened?
too. Let's get to
Yeah.
that after. But how about collectively? Does it all kind of, does it become a hive kind of?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I do. The collective field obviously is the most potent field that we can, in the universal field, is the most potent field that we can tap into. So, yeah, it's a party.
Yeah, it sure is. And not everybody's invited or can right? Can anyone become an intuitive?
I'm having a memory, Joey, and I'm just going to share it with you.
Okay.
I remember being in Bali, and Ian Finn was the instructor. He was the head of blissology, and that's the form of yoga that I was learning. So we took a class and did a collective class for a group at the Yoga Barn, huge popular place in Ubud in Bali. And there was a gentleman whom I was practicing next to, and I could sense his frustration, and so could Ian.
Wow.
And he was trying to get into a posture his body just could not do, right? And so he used the same line that you used, in that, like, some parties, we just don't get to attend, right? We don't all get invited to the same party. And it brought such humor, levity to the situation for the guy. At that moment, he was like, I let go of this, so I can't do this posture. No big deal. So thank you for that memory. That's sweet. Thank you.
It's fascinating. Your memory brought one of my memories. So I was that person in yoga class where I couldn't I couldn't get to the position, and what I said out loud, which I thought I said in the head, I think I said something to the effect of, "Oh, let Jesus take the wheel." You know, the song. I said something like that. And of course the whole class burst and they collapsed their form. I didn't mean I thought I thought I was saying internally, but amazing how one triggers another. Where is there space for astrology in the life of an intuitive?
Oh goodness, I don't bring it into my work, but boy, I do read my horoscopes.
You
I want to
do.
know what's. Oh yes. Oh, I'd rather read the horoscope than the news any day.
Right. 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 Because it's never bad, right? It's never doesn't get you angry, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make me depressed. Let's put it
Let's
that
put it
way.
that way. Yeah.
Right. I don't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
tap into the collective field on some of these current events. Yeah.
Of course, of course. You mentioned chakras and body awareness. Without knowing, I think you said there's 7, I believe. Without
Mhm.
knowing that, what should a person know about their chakras?
Oh, wow. They exist.
Hmm.
Number one, they're very real. They are part of their entire being, and they connect. They connect into the central nervous system. There's literally like a highway of nerves that make up, that surround these energy centers, and they are connected to what we call an endocrine gland, which essentially is the gland that produces hormones.
Hmm.
So it can change these energy centers, these chakras can change the chemistry, the physiology of the physical body. And it's happening 24/7,
Wow. All the time.
all the time.
You're sleeping, no matter what you're doing, it's happening.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, your autonomic nervous system, right, which is a division of the central nervous system. These are governing organs that happen automatically. You don't think about your heart beating, you don't
Right.
think about your breath, you don't think about your digestion. Thankfully, right, they know how to operate. They're under the governing vessel of the central nervous system. And so same is true for the energy centers. You may not be, I mean, you can't really see your heart, but it still functions. You can't really see an energy center, but it still functions. You can't see an acupuncture point, but you can still put a needle in it and it
Mm.
creates an impact. So, yeah.
Dr. Mary, what commonly do people come to you with in hopes to remedy?
Wow. I'm just thinking about my last several new clients, and
I would imagine it's stress reduction.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, it's the common theme, Joey, I guess, revolves around people saying, you know what, I've had XYZ. I've tried A, B, C, D,
Mm,
F, G, in
mm.
order to overcome it. And it's just not going away. And I feel like there's something deeper. Like that's what I hear more common than not.
Mm.
I feel like there's something I'm missing. There's something underlining this. There's a reason I
Interesting.
can't really overcome it. Whether it be a belief system, whether it be a mental thing, an emotional thing, a physical thing.
So they come with you to this. I assume the first time they talk to you, it's just a consultation. You're talking. And then at that moment, do you start accepting what they're not saying?
Wow. So the process kind of looks like this. Somebody says, I'm curious about Dr. Mary.
Hmm.
So I'm going to set up, I don't know if what I'm dealing with is what she deals with.
Mm.
So I'm going to connect with her for a discovery call and I'm going to tell her what's up and I'm going to see if I like her
It
response, if
fits.
I like her, if I like her energy, if I think that she's a good match. Then what ends up happening, if they choose to move forward, I say, great. I said, I'm going to send you an intake evaluation form. I kid you not, this form takes probably a good 20 minutes to fill out. I want to know about what have they tried,
Mm.
for this ailment that has worked in the past or possibly has not worked in the past. What kind of traumas? What's happening in their lifestyle?
Mm.
Who do they live with? Do they have pets? Do they feel safe? What's happening at work? I want to know. I want to know about this person because I can't just look at an individual system and think that I'm understanding the whole.
Hmm.
And I certainly don't understand the whole if I don't get the integrative understanding as to their foundation.
Wow. But in that first consultation, you're not in I don't know what the term intuiting. You're not being intuitive. You're not opening it up.
Sometimes it comes out like I get little spontaneous hits, and I share those with the
Uh,
patient.
oh,
But
you do.
the primary thing during the first intake is it a good match?
Wow.
And so people come, they have questions. Most people are like, "How do you do this? Can you tell me about your process?" And I do. I try to be as transparent, and I also try to manage their expectations from the very beginning.
So were you born with this, Dr. Mary, or did it cultivate once, your hearing issues developed?
I think I was born with it. I think everybody's born with it. I think everybody has the capacity to tap into their intuition. I truly do believe that.
Mm, mm.
And I just happened to be in a physical body that had a hearing impairment. So it kind of forced me
Ah.
to maximize how I received information. I find you to be highly intuitive.
Explain.
I do. I know that you're a well seasoned host as far as a podcast, but you're also asking questions based upon your intuition. Like
Mm.
you're constantly asking, how do I keep this conversation going? What's interesting for me? What's interesting for the listeners? And then you may have already prepared some questions, which I think you have, but
Yeah.
some of the questions that you've asked today came straight out of your intuition.
Well, Dr. Mary, I find as I get older, I have more questions than I have answers. And just being eternally curious, it just seems a natural course that I don't know, I just found as a kid, I asked a Socratic method of learning, right? Just question based. It's just the way I kind of operate. Um, it's fascinating to me that everybody has it, but you just learn to work that muscle.
I think there's some truth to it, and I trust it.
And you trust it. Very interesting. Do you ever play poker?
No, I do not.
I could
and I and I
imagine.
don't and I don't gamble.
Yeah, because poker would be something if you're in a table with four people or five people and they're not showing their cards. Maybe they are showing their cards and they just don't realize it.
I'll have to try that.
Hmm. Is there something, Dr. Mary, that you believed steadfast 10 years ago that you don't believe anymore?
Oh wow. Oh, Joey, I've been studying the human body now for 35 years,
Yeah.
and it never ceases to amaze me.
Really?
So, for example, right? For example, I had my anatomy, my physiology, my biology, my neurology classes when I attended chiropractic school. Now they're teaching more of the quantum neurology, quantum biochemistry, quantum biology.
Whoa.
They're teaching it at a much more finite way
Mm.
that can connect to the bigger organisms. And so 10 years ago, I wasn't thinking about quantum biology. I wasn't thinking about how the cells and the mitochondria of the cells were in training with various different other cells in my brain. I wasn't
Wow.
thinking that way. And so a girlfriend of mine we were having dinner one night, and she's like, "Okay, are you ready? Are you prepared to have your mind blown?" She was going to tell me a story. And I was like, "Oh, my dear, my mind does not get blown anymore.
Huh.
It just doesn't. It doesn't. The field of consciousness, is exploding in so many different ways on so many different levels that it's just an awesome time to be alive in this field, in this
Mm.
industry."
Mm. You mentioned before, Dr. Mary, that you like to work with women more than men. Is one of the reasons that men kind of shut off a bit?
I don't know why that is. It's a legitimate question, and my only answer, and I think I gave it to you, is that I have a resonance with women, so it's easier for
Right.
me to entrain. But as I say that, that's not always true. So, yeah, I don't know how to really expand on that.
Hmm. And does intuition, can the degrees vary? Well, you say you were in Vietnam and Ho Chi Minh. Are the Vietnamese people easier to be intuitive? Is there national?
I love that you asked this question because we spent 10 years living internationally, and I
Yeah.
feel incredibly blessed, right? So, every place from Vietnam to Bogota, Colombia, to
Huh.
London, to various different countries in Europe, to Bali, in South America. I feel I wouldn't trade that decade of my life for anything. But in each culture that I was blessed to live in, I approached it from a it's like I was 5 years old.
Hmm.
So, you at five, you're really curious, you're inquisitive, you don't really know how to ask for the things that you need. So, you got to figure it out.
Hmm.
You don't know how to get from point A to point B. So, it's kind of a little puzzle every time you do it. And so because you're in this kind of this state, it allows you to witness other people, places, things from a place of like childhood wonder. And that has further developed my intuition than anything
Hmm.
else.
Hmm. You mentioned that you sense intuition in me. So I'm from outside of New York, New Haven, and I would travel into the city very often. And when you go into New York City, you're forced to be on high alert, right? Because wherever you are, and I have daughters, right, and perhaps that's another elevation. So I'd be in a restaurant or something with my daughters in New York City, and maybe not the best neighborhood because we wanted to try something out. And I always think of how the giraffes fall asleep, right? They all fall asleep with their necks down, except for the one has their neck up, right, to watch over the other giraffe. So I think, okay, I'm just going to, be a little extra sharp here, make sure nothing goes sideways. And so I just kind of have that on when I'm in those circumstances. And then when I'm not, I'm not. So it just kind of forces you to do that, and I just trying to read people. I have a company, and so I do sales and trying to understand people, how they work, and it just naturally happens. But perhaps that got sharpened because of those experiences. I don't really
I
know
believe
my
that.
I don't know what my question is there, but it's
Well,
a
no,
point.
I can kind of what I'm hearing you say, right? There's a time to lean into your sympathetics. I mean,
Mm.
notoriously, you hear people say, "Yep, your sympathetics are when, a saber-toothed tiger is fighting you." Well, your saber-toothed tiger is the neighborhood that you're choosing to have dinner in New York City.
Mm.
Okay. So you're heightened, you're a little bit not dysregulated, but you are on alert.
That's right.
You
That's right.
are on alert. And so when that happens, if utilized properly, and I'm not saying there are some people who live this way in a dysregulated state, maybe you perpetually, maybe you work the New York Stock Exchange and you're, having to always be on fire. Or maybe you're an ER doctor, you're always having to be on fire and you're in this sympathetic state. That can lead to dysregulation. But in your situation, maybe you're bringing that higher sense of awareness, for protection of your tribe. And I think that that's a very instinctual thing. And I do think that it opens up some areas for your intuition to run on high alert as well.
Yeah, the old saying, of course, is don't live in New York City for too long, you'll get too hard, and don't live in California too long, you'll get too soft. Who knows if that's true? I've heard it before, but perhaps I'm skewed because I'm from the Northeast. Is there a question, doctor, that you wish more people would ask you?
Oh goodness. I can't off the top of my head. I don't think so.
I mean, you being intuitive is so endlessly fascinating. If we were to have dinner, I'm afraid that I would just dominate with all these questions, and people don't ask you this stuff.
When it comes to being a dinner table conversation, I kind of shy away from it.
I see.
I just yeah, it's just part of who I am. It's part of what makes me who I am. I'm quirky, I'm unique, I'm lovely, I'm generous,
Yes.
I'm loyal, I'm all these things, right?
Smart.
And for some people, I could be too much. So I just kind of keep it to myself, and those people that need to know.
Yeah, same with me. Same with me. Is there something in the last month or so that you've changed your mind on?
Changed my mind? Yeah, there is, Joey. Now that you asked, so this may sound, I don't know how it's going to sound. I really don't care. So my purpose, my mission, what I know to be true for me, down to the trillions of the cells within my body, my purpose here on this planet is to support others in their healing and their transformation, utilizing the tools of energy medicine and chiropractic. And so I thought, because I was professionally trained and I put in the sweat equity and the financial commitment to being a chiropractor, that was always going to be part of my services, my approach to the human body. And so it is, like I said, to a small degree. But in the last month, I think, it would be okay if I leaned into these other modalities 100% and not had my hands on patients anymore. So that was kind of a big,
Interesting.
kind of like, oh, I've never, because it has been my existence for so long, and I happen to be good at it. I mean, let's hope that anybody in the professional arena who's been doing it for 30 plus years is good at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've kind of shifted on.
Wow. Are you a therapist?
Do you want me to answer it, or am I answering it in the lens of what my patients think? No, I'm not a therapist. I am not a trained therapist.
So a medical intuitive is not a therapist.
No.
And what's the difference? What are you doing that a therapist is not doing?
When you say therapist, I think of those cognitive therapists who are talk therapists or psychotherapists, or that's not what I do. Now, do I get in some in depth? Do I hear some? Do I have conversations with my patients that are sensitive and vulnerable? I do, but that's not. Um, that's it. I guess it just happened, so to
Hmm.
speak.
And ultimately, do you offer advice?
Does homework fall in the category of advice?
Give me an example of homework.
Homework would be creating neutral separations from maybe work environment or people in your home, um, spending 10, 20 minutes meditating every day, or
Mm,
learning how to ground, or more walks in nature. Those,
mm.
that's kind of the homework that I would assign. Maybe more journaling, maybe introspective work.
Maybe you'll indulge me here for a moment, Dr. Mary. I have found from friends, colleagues, that I often hear problems and just generally talking, and I find that they get stuck in one or more of these three categories, and I wonder what you think about it. First is continuing try to control things they can't control. It's the struggle there. Two, the whole holding off on happiness. I'll be happy when I lose the weight, or I'll be happy if that person treats me well. The whole, I can't be happy unless these things happen that are getting out of my control. And third, the kind of, this happened to me in the past, therefore that's the way I am now, nothing I can do about it. Or conversely, this is going to happen in the future, nothing I can do about it now, but I'm going to dwell on it. Thoughts?
Yeah, quite a few actually. The first you were talking about
Controlling things
uh,
I can't control.
controlling things that they have no control over. For me, that is learning how to trust.
Mm, it's a trust issue.
Capital TRUST.
Hmm.
And that's our first energy center theme. Okay. So very, very, very few people, myself included, to trust 100% that we are loved, nurtured, and always supported, regardless what life puts on our path. That takes a tremendous amount of faith,
Interesting.
right?
Faith and trust.
hmm And so that's the first thing. The second thing that you said, I'll be happy if,
Or
I'll be
when.
happy when.
Yeah.
For me, that screams third energy center themes,
Hmm.
meaning that you are autonomous, you are a sovereign being, you have self worth, you have control, self control, and that's really all that you have. And so, if you're working on your own expression, doesn't matter when somebody else's timing is to change.
Hmm.
The last thing you were talking about, essentially anxiety and or depression.
Hmm.
And so forward thinking and reminiscing about the past. And that is kind of a disruption of your ability to have present time consciousness.
Hmm.
So, if we are conditioned based upon our past memories, we will always create the same kind of outcome moving forward. So, if we can bring ourselves into that magical present time consciousness, then we can move forward without all that other kind of mental chatter.
So when somebody comes to you and perhaps is stuck in one of these three ways or multiple of these three ways, that's one way that they can resolve it. I mean, ultimately, I feel they all really come down to control. They're just trying to control things they can't control. Maybe not, but it can be frustrated. And what happens when I hear this too sometimes about just the haters, Dr. Mary, right? I just receive, social media where it is. And, there's just so much negativity around me. How do I remove that?
hmm hmm On my website, I have a free gift for anyone who's interested, and that I have a series of 3 meditations, guided meditations, and I specifically made them less than 15 minutes so that time is not an issue. If you're the person who says, I don't have 15 minutes to do a guided meditation per day, you're the person that really needs 30 or 45 minutes. So,
Hmm.
But the point I want to make is that in this, one of the three meditations in this bundle is about detached alignment, or about neutral separation. So oftentimes our biofield is not filled with our own essence. We become porous. We take on other
Hmm.
people's energies and emotions. So if you're in sales, I know that you're familiar with this, and that you read your clients' needs before they even know that they have a need themselves.
Try to, yeah.
And so, and that makes you good at what you do. And then there's a difference between identifying a need, and then there's another difference where you take on that need, and you're the responsibility of filling that need for another person. Okay. So if you can neutrally separate, meaning that you are autonomous and sovereign, you're an individual, and
Mm.
they are, whether it be another person, place, or thing, they are autonomous, an individual within their own right, then that means that you can still be of support to the other person and allow that other person to have their own experience. Okay.
Mm.
If you do for others what they can do for themselves, you are robbing them of their own experience. And I know
Wow.
as a father, you probably have done this from a very pure, heartfelt space with your daughters. However, I know that you've been on this planet long enough that your daughters are young women making their way in the world, and they are going to learn from the school of hard knocks.
Mm.
They're going to have their own experiences. And sometimes that just breaks your heart.
Yeah.
However, you've got to let them develop into the beautiful beings that they are intended to be. And so that's neutral separations, and it can be done it doesn't mean you don't love your daughters, because that bond will never be broken. I'm just saying that allow the other person to have their own journey. And
Mm.
so um I know that there are possible groups that I don't align with. And so when I see their presence on social media or in the news, I neutrally separate myself from that.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean I don't care, right? Doesn't mean I don't care. I probably
Right.
care too much.
Mm.
But I allow them to have their own experience, and it leaves me, for the most part, individually unimpacted. Not, it doesn't impact me directly, but I understand it does impact the collective. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Separation. I heard a great kind of metaphor recently where the crow is the only bird that will attack an eagle. So an eagle will be flying and a crow will fly on its back and start pecking on the eagle. Now, the eagle won't make a change, won't even try to get rid of it. It'll simply just start to ascend because it realized when it gets to a certain altitude, the crow can't take it and it will just fall off. So while the world is pecking at you, just kind of continue to rise and it'll fall off.
That's a beautiful analogy. I've never heard that before, and I needed to hear that today. Thank you.
So I feel free to use it. So I started my business, Dr. Mary, into the in the 90s, and I was working way too hard and not paying attention to myself or my well-being. 14, 16-hour days, you're no stranger to this. And next thing I know, I'm in front of the doctor and I'm at 340 pounds. So she tells me, you know, I knew my eating habits were poor. I did not realize I was that big. And she says to me, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. My eldest daughter was just born, scared the life out of me. Spent the next 6, 7 months, lost about 130 pounds and kept it off. These are lifelong changes. You can't look at it as a finishing line, right? These are changes you're going to make permanently. And when I tell people this story, I could just see it. What's your secret? How'd you do it? And I say, there's no secret, people. Discipline, right? Focus, motivation, routine. How does discipline play a role in your life, Dr. Mary?
Oh wow. Before I'm gonna express gratitude to you for sharing that story, because I can honestly say that I've been down not that exact path but a similar path,
Mm.
in which I was not listening to the cues that my body was giving to me, and I was overworking myself, and I was only, I was self-medicating at the time, whether that be sugar, whether that be food, carbohydrates, or alcohol, or I was just running this cycle in which I would get up, do too much caffeine, I'd work out in order to get myself going so that I could run all the day, all throughout the day. And oh, by the way, I may need a 3 o'clock pick me up with another cup of coffee so I could run for the second half of the day. And then I would go home and I would still be on, still lit up. And then I would have a heavy dinner, and then I would have wine, and then I would knock myself out and do the cycle all over the next day. And I did that for so long that I literally maxed out my adrenal system, where I had no fight left in me.
Wow.
And I remember going back to an integrative physician, and he's like, I don't know how to tell you, but you have to learn how to rest.
Wow.
And so I was like, what does that mean? And for me, that meant no exercise. That meant that no more coffee. That meant no more double booking myself, 3 patients every 15 minutes. I just couldn't do it. My body and my mind and my emotional well-being said, time out. And I was just like flatlined, and all I could do was get up, go to work, right, at half the capacity, and then come home, have a light dinner, and then early to bed, and then get up. And I had no exercise. It was just a really very basic, simple life routine. While I was undergoing intravenous injections, I was working on my brain barrier. I was doing all sorts of things, right? So, but at the time, I was utilizing the tools, to the best of my ability. Meditation was not part of my practice yet. I had let go of my spirituality at that time. So I guess what I'm sharing all of this when you say, well, it's discipline. And I would like to I would like from the lens of somebody who understands autonomic nervous system dysregulation. Discipline to me is contains some force behind it. I would rather say some kind of consistency. And so the reason I don't want somebody to be disciplined to the point that they are rigid and still leaning into that autonomic dysregulation where their sympathetic nervous system is still too heightened. I would rather somebody soften from discipline and just work with consistency in order to get the desired outcome. Consistency in my world is more spacious. It allows more grace and ease, less push.
Was discipline instilled as a child? Was it talked about? Was it kind of exemplified by your parents and peers?
Oh, very, very, very much so. I don't even know what. Okay, so here's a story that maybe would sum it up for you. I've got two stories that maybe would sum it up for you. So my parents were very body image focused. And they had 3 daughters, right? So I was the youngest of 3. And so it became, again, I'm aging myself. I'm the same age as you are, Joey. So this is back in the day where maybe grapefruit diets were, in fad. Whatever the latest diet was, we did it as a family. And the motivation was whoever loses the most weight gets the money and mom's jewelry box. Okay. So that's one example.
Wow.
Another example is kind of humorous. I can remember Christmas time. So this would have been early 70s. And do you remember the tracksuits that were popular?
I sure do.
So all 5 of us got matching tracksuits, right? So then it became, everybody put your tracksuit on. We're going down to the gymnasium. We're going to work out as a family. So I can share those stories in jest and in humor. I mean, they are funny.
They are.
They are funny. But, that created some healing trauma for me. I'll also say that.
Mm.
So yes, I can relate to the push, the grind, the will centers,
Hmm.
when you're willing things to happen versus allowing things to happen.
You mentioned wine and coffee. Does alcohol and drugs, what does that do to your intuition? Does it heighten
Ah,
it? Does it dull it?
terrible, 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 terrible.
It dulls it, or you're not able to turn it off? What do you mean terrible?
It's just terrible. First and foremost, it's not good for the system. Now, with all of that said, Joey, I just literally before I got on the call with you today, I had a wonderful. I've been exposed to the. I'm a big Joe Dispenza fan,
Yes.
and I do believe in. I think he's up to some really good things. Cutting edge, research is happening as a result of his hard work. So I'm really grateful for all of his efforts. And I will say that he's working with meditation and how it can literally reverse the cerebral spinal fluid, and so that you're getting and creating kind of like this mechanical pressure on the pineal gland, which then can create a whole cascade of chemicals to be released. And some of these chemicals are responsible for pain management. Some of these chemicals obviously can alter the emotional state, and some can create hallucinogenic properties. Okay.
Hmm.
So before I got on the call with you today, I was talking to a gentleman whom I had hosted on my podcast, and he's turned me on to, and I know this scientifically to be true, the vibroacoustic therapies that are out there, along with like the stroboscopic lights, in order to influence various different brainwave frequencies. So, I'm not losing sight of your question. You said, well, what about drugs? How does that impact your intuition? So, by undergoing some of the vibroacoustic type modalities and the light therapy, I know that we are creating a sober psychedelic opportunity that possibly you might be, creating some hormones that are in the, not hormones, but chemicals that are in the family of hallucinogenics, and that can be used to aid intuition. Okay, so you're talking about drugs and alcohol, and I immediately think of that's not that's the other end of the spectrum
Yeah.
where I'm
Yeah.
saying terrible, 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 and then I'm saying, oh yeah, but we now know that the brain can do some really amazing things. It can create pain, can override pain receptors. It can create hallucinogenic properties. So, in from that lens, I find it enhancing to the intuition.
Interesting. What motivates you right now, Dr. Mary?
Wow. Um, what motivates me, Joey? My mission does. Okay, like I'm in alignment. Like I know, like I know, what my purpose is. I just need to figure out how to be in alignment and how to be of service in that way. That motivates me. Um, Healing, transformational healing. That motivates me. I want to be of service. That motivates me.
So,
Also bridging the gap between the hardcore science of what has been proven to some of the sciences that still may be a little soft
interesting.
and that are in the process of being researched and scientifically proven.
Right.
I've lived in that domain for years, and so I hold that space because I know it's just science that has yet to be proven.
Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypins.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it. Mm. Takes time to do those tests and make them repeatable. And so I hear impact. I hear kind of acknowledgement of this science. So, given that motivation and your mission, how do you measure success, Dr. Mary?
That's interesting. Well, I guess, if I'm being authentic, for me, based upon my life experiences, success means that I'm regulated, right?
Mm,
My nervous system is aligned and that my body is not receiving mixed signals. And so that's success.
mm,
I mean, when I can live in today's world and be of service to others and not be reactive to the world around me, I think that
mm,
that's
mm,
success and that I
mm.
can support others.
Does it make you happy?
I love what I do.
Yeah.
Happy, I think everybody's definition of happiness is different for all people. So I'm going to leave that spaciousness in the definition for people to identify what happiness means for them.
Mm. Well, I can tell you this, Dr. Mary, talking to you today has made me happy. I love hearing what you're doing. I love understanding this gift that you've had and you've developed and you've exercised. And I love that you're just not using it for yourself. You're actually helping people with it. That's the trait of a remarkable person. And I really genuinely, sincerely applaud you for it. Anybody listening or watching today, how can they get in touch with you?
I would invite those that are curious to check me out online. Check out the website. My website is www.drmarysanders.com. And while you're there, download those 3 meditations. They're my most favorite, most readily utilized meditations that I hold space for others. And so that's my invitation. And if there's a curiosity as to whether or not I might be of service to you, then I invite you to sign up for a complimentary discovery call. And
Dr.
Joey,
Yeah.
I just want to say one last thing before we go our separate ways. I want to express gratitude to you first and foremost. And you were very complimentary, and that show in identifying that I'm showing up for others and being part of the collective.
Mm,
And you're doing the exact same thing. You
mm.
identified it because you see it as a quality of yourself as well. So thank you for being you as well.
I appreciate that. And I'm steadily every day working on taking compliments. Thank you. I appreciate it. drmarysanders.com. Thank you so much. Next time I'm in the general Colorado area, perhaps we'll get a cup of tea.
That would be lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations.